Hello guys and welcome to our example in Visual Basic, and today we will be looking into the timer example. So what is the timer? Basically it's more like you are implementing the time function whenever you run in a Visual Basic. Let's say for example you have an event and you need to link it to a time control. So basically when the time actually runs, that's when the event is actually occurring within the time loop. So you can see that we can actually implement timer that raise an event at user defined interval. So basically we just define a certain interval where the event actually happens within that time frame. And also timer can also be used on window form, which we will look into an example later. So where you can actually find this timer, you can actually find timer in the toolbox where you just type timer, it's on the toolbox. And once you actually select the timer, you can actually put it onto the Windows form, but it doesn't really stick on the form, but it's stick on the background of the form, so it's more like a stopwatch running at the back of the form. And in the timer properties here, it only has one kind of event driven function, which is the tick function. And in here you can actually give a name and you can give an interval of how fast the timer should be. So this is pretty much the code of how you want to start and stop the time. As you can see in the timer 1 start and timer 1 enable, both of these functions are pretty much the same. You can use this function to start the timer, and timer 1 stop and timer 1 enable false is just another functions just to stop the timer. So it's pretty much the same way how you just start and stop with the event that is actually being used by like a button or any kind of function. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the timer example to catch a picture, to create a very simple game called catch the picture, where we're going to display a certain picture at a picture box on a certain speed. So right now we will be here designing a simple catch the picture timer example game. So in this example we're just going to need four buttons, pretty much four buttons. We're not going to use much actually. Um, we're going to put it here. The designing part usually takes pretty much a lengthy effort to do it, but you will see that sometimes you will find it very entertaining to do this designing part. And then we need to put in the picture box. Of course, you notice in my previous tutorial, the picture box only display one picture, but with the help of the timer, we can actually display multiple pictures running at the same time. And this we will actually see in here. And what I like to do is I always like to put my picture box white with the border style 3D as always. And we're gonna change here as uh, choosing the picture. This is where the open file dialog comes in. We're going to use this to select as many pictures as we want, and we can actually display as many pictures and running at the same time while we choose what picture that we want to catch. So for this we will actually use a very simple example, which is the dice, because this is a very good example to randomly throw a dice and then you see what number you get. So we're going to do this on the picture. So to do this, what we're going to do is we need to go into the code of choosing the picture. So we, of course, we have to put in the open file dialog. And oh yes, we haven't put in the timer yet, so we're gonna take this timer and just put it anywhere, and you can see the timer is actually being appeared here, pretty much the same like how the open file dialog also works. You can see both of these are here. And now we will go into the code of choosing the picture. So open file dialog 1, as usual I'm just going to use the title here, select images, and open file dialog with a filter, with the filter of choosing the picture, right? So we're going to put the image files, and we have a bar here that asterisk sign .jpg. So that's pretty much, we have choose the picture. And then of course we want to select more than one picture, so we're going to use this multi-select is enable true. And once we have this is where this is where it's actually get really interesting, and you will see why here. If the open file dialog dot show dialog is actually equals to the dialog result dot OK, then in here we actually use the choose button to actually choose the file, and then pretty much the file selected kind of stays here. We have already selected a file and kind of stays here, and we're not going to do anything here. It pretty much like stored in the application, temporarily stored in the application. And next we're going to the button start. When we click the button, that's where the picture will start running in the picture box. So we're going to put here as timer1, that is the design name, timer1, and we start the timer. So we just start the timer. And the next is when we actually define in the timer, like what happens when the timer actually starts. So we're just going to click in here in the timer, and you can see here is private sub timer1 tick. This is the event driven by the timer. And what we can do here is, since we actually have a numbers of files being selected, we need to define that as a variable for it. So we're just going to put it here as array files as integer, so in here we're going to put it as array files is actually equals to the open file dialog dot file names dot count -1. This is actually something that we really need to take note of it, because whenever a file is actually being selected by the computer, the computation usually starts from the index of 0. So whenever the first file, if you select like from 10 files, the computer will actually recognize the first file as 0 with the index 0 and the last file as 9. So which is why we have to put in here -1 here at the back. So this is array file is actually the whole file being selected. It is being put into integer. And next is we need to define the pictures being displayed in the picture box. So image is actually from file, and we need to put in the file names. So to put in the file names, the files are actually being stored in the open file dialog. So we just need to put in here as open file dialog dot file names. And now we just need to know like how does the picture is actually going to be displayed. So here we need to put the picture being displayed randomly. And usually what we can do is, if I were to put this as 1 or 2, it will only select the position of the number of the file in that array file. But I don't want that. I just want to select a random number of pictures that is randomly being displayed. So this is where we're going to introduce another integer called a random variable. So dim r as new random. So this is actually a very good variable that you can actually use to give out a random value when you actually use this r variable. So we're going to define the value r being displayed randomly. And how do you do that? Because right now we have a certain number of files, and we want to display randomly from the first file to the last file. So to do that, you just need to put in next. When you put in next, it will actually gives out the like the position of the random number is actually being displayed. So if let's say if I want to display from 0 to a certain number of files, and then in this case we're just going to put in here as array files, and yeah, so you can see here from this code is the picture box is going to choose the files from the open file dialog with a random number being displayed randomly from 0 to the total number of files. So this is pretty much how it's actually going to be done. And then of course lastly we just need to put in the catch button. So when we press the catch button, that's when you say that the timer is actually being stopped. So timer1 dot stop, and once we have already stopped the timer, of course we need to include dispose. Dispose means it's just pretty much like releasing the resources within the timer, so that you don't really continue back the time. It just resets the whole timer into 0 back. Okay, So now this is done. What we're going to do is we're just going to run this thing, and let's see if this works. So we have the choose file. It goes into the picture of dice, and I'm going to select from dice 1 to dice 6, open, and now we're going to start. So right now the picture is actually randomly being displayed, and what we're going to do is when we press the catch button, it will just catch the picture that we want. So we can actually just close this first, and of course you can actually set the timer interval to be 1000 or less than 1000. Of course the interval is actually in milliseconds, so 1000 is just 1 second in real time. So I'm just going to put it 50 here, and then when we run this thing, and you can see that the picture is actually being displayed very fast when we start. So it's going really fast. So this it makes it much more harder to actually see what's the next picture is coming. And now we catch. Okay, so we got number 3. Sorry, number 4. But you can not only try this with the dice picture, but you can also try with another pictures. Like I have a picture called animals. I have random animal pictures here, and I just put in, and then I can just randomly display any animals here, and I just catch, and wow, I just got a sheep. Okay, so that is pretty much what is the timer example in Visual Basic 2017. And of course you can try the timer example with many more examples. This is just the first example I'll be doing with timer. I'll be coming up with at least another 2 more examples with the timer. So thank you guys for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed this video.